The Grand Interstellar Museum was always full of noise, but on this day the hall was quieter than usual. Many visitors stood in front of a long glass case that held a strange blade. It was thin, bright, and shaped in a way no species had seen before. Some said it looked graceful. Others said it looked dangerous. All agreed it was extremely old, older than any known star map, older than most planets with life. The museum staff called it Artifact 17A, because they had no better name. No machine could understand the metal it was made from. No scanner could look inside it. Some aliens whispered that it might not even be metal. It had no rust, no marks, no scratches, not even from the journey through deep space. It had simply been found drifting near the edge of the galaxy, as if waiting for someone. Every species had tried to claim it. Every scientist had failed to explain it. In the middle of this crowd stood a young human research group visiting the museum for the first time. One of them, a quiet man named Elias Ward, walked with his hand behind his back, studying everything with calm eyes. He was not loud, and he did not act excited like the other humans. He only looked thoughtful. The group moved from artifact to artifact until they reached the blade. The moment Elias saw it, he stopped walking. His steps froze. His breath slowed. His eyes narrowed, not in confusion but in recognition, like he was looking at something he had seen before, something he never expected to see again. The museum curator, a tall blue alien named Rel, noticed his reaction. "Human visitor," Rel said gently, "you seem surprised. Do you perhaps recognize the object?" Elias did not answer right away. He stepped closer to the glass, leaning in just slightly. His reflection shone faintly on the smooth surface of the case. For a moment, he said nothing at all. The other humans stared. A few aliens moved away, unsure if he was reacting in a dangerous way. Finally, Elias spoke. His voice was soft, almost respectful. "Yes," he said, "I recognize it." Rel blinked his large eyes. "You do? Humans are a young species. This blade has existed for millions of years." Elias shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "it's older than that. Much older." The crowd began to whisper. A few aliens took out recorders. Some whispered that the human was lying. Others whispered that he might know something important. Rel stepped closer. "Then what is this object?" Elias looked at the blade again, and his expression changed. It was not fear. It was not shock. It was something like memory, heavy and old. "It's from my training," he said. The entire hall fell silent. A young alien student in the back squeaked. "Training? What training uses something this old?" Elias did not answer. He placed his hand on the glass, very lightly, almost like he was touching an old photograph. Rel straightened his robe. "Human, please explain. No known human history includes anything like this." "I know," Elias said quietly. "Most of human history is wrong." A sharp wave of murmurs rose across the hall. A few aliens stepped back, as if the blade might react again. Some thought Elias had misspoken. Others believed he was saying something dangerous. Rel tried to keep control of the crowd. "Are you saying humans interacted with ancient civilizations? This is impossible." "It was not interaction," Elias replied softly. "It was survival." No one understood what that meant. The aliens exchanged confused looks. The human researchers whispered among themselves, unsure what Elias was trying to say. He had always been strange and quiet during training, but none of them expected this. Rel tried another question. "Human Elias, how could you possibly know something about this?" Elias lifted his eyes and looked directly at him. "Because I was trained for this," he said. "My entire family was." His voice held no pride, only truth. A small flicker of light ran across the blade, as if responding to his presence. Several aliens gasped. The sensors on the display case beeped in alarm. The blade had been silent for 100 years, until now. Rel stepped back. "It reacted to you." Elias nodded once. "It always would. It recognizes the ones who were meant to see it." This only made the hall more tense. Many aliens feared relics from the unknown. Some even believed such ancient tools were cursed. Rel swallowed, trying to stay calm. "Human, please." Tell us what this blade is." Elias looked at the blade for a long, heavy moment. Then he turned to the crowd. "It is a tool," he said, "for learning, for discipline, for preparing us for something that happened before we were ever born." "But why would humans need something so ancient?" someone asked. Elias sighed. "Because humans are not as young as you think." Every species froze. The idea was impossible. Humans were new to galactic space. They did not have old ruins like other civilizations. They did not have ancient star maps. Their history was short and simple. And yet Elias spoke like someone carrying a secret older than stars. He stepped away from the glass case. "This blade should not be here," he said. "It was never meant to be displayed." "Then what was it meant for?" Rel asked, almost whispering. Elias's eyes were calm but heavy. "For warning us," he said. "For reminding us of what we lost, and what might return." And with those words, he turned and walked away, leaving a silent hall full of aliens who suddenly felt the galaxy was far larger and far more mysterious than they had ever known. Elias did not return to the museum the next day. He stayed in his small room in the research dorm, sitting on the edge of the bed with the lights dimmed. He kept the window open, letting fresh night air flow across his face. He knew the museum staff would talk. He knew the aliens who heard him would repeat every word. The moment he said that blade came from his training, he had changed something. But he also knew there was no turning back now. Across the research center, whispers echoed through the halls. Humans talked. Aliens talked even louder. Some said Elias was lying. Some said humans were hiding secrets. Some said the blade reacted to him because humans had strange biology. But none of them knew the real story, the story that no human was supposed to say out loud. A soft knock came at Elias's door. He almost ignored it, but he recognized a voice that followed. "Elias? It's Mara. Please open the door." Mara was his closest colleague, one of the few who noticed how carefully he hid parts of himself. He opened the door, and she stepped inside with wide, worried eyes. "You need to explain," she said. "People think you're dangerous." "I know," he answered quietly. "You said the blade is from your training. That doesn't make sense. Humans don't train with ancient weapons." "No," he said, "not anymore." Mara sat down across from him. "What does that mean?" He looked at her for a long moment, trying to decide how much he could say. Finally, he spoke. "There is a part of human history that was erased. Not forgotten, erased. Entire centuries were wiped clean, records destroyed, memories rewritten, cultures buried." Mara frowned. "Why would humans do that to themselves?" "They didn't," Elias whispered. "Someone else did." Mara froze. "Someone," she repeated. "Like another species?" Elias shook his head. "No, something." Mara's breath caught, but she didn't interrupt. "Long before humans built their first cities," Elias continued, "there were visitors, not like the friendly traders we know now. These visitors came from a world older than anything alive. They saw humans as useful, not as equals." Mara leaned forward. "Useful for what?" "War," Elias said simply. "They took early humans and reshaped them. They taught them to fight, to survive, to adapt. They built weapons like that blade, not to kill but to test us, to prepare us. Humans were their soldiers." "That's impossible," Mara whispered. "Humans didn't even have technology back then." "They didn't need it," Elias replied. "The visitors taught them skills beyond tools. They trained humans to think fast, move fast, solve problems under pressure. Humans learned how to fight with nothing but instinct and determination. They were shaped into something powerful." Mara swallowed. "Then what happened?" "One day," Elias said, "the visitors disappeared. All of them. No warning. No messages. Just gone. The humans they trained were left behind, confused and frightened. And because those humans had been changed, they were feared by their own people. So they hid. They hid everything." Elias said, "Every trace of the visitors. Every memory. Every artifact. Humans rebuilt their history from the start. They pretended none of it happened." Mara shook her head, struggling to accept it. "But Why keep it secret now? Why would your family still know about this? Because some humans never forgot, Elias explained. A few families were chosen to remember the truth. They trained their children for generations, quietly, in case the visitors ever returned. Mara stared at him. Your family is one of them. Yes. And the blade? It's one of the tests, Elias said. A tool that reacts to those trained by the old ways. I wasn't supposed to see it again. Mara leaned back, overwhelmed. If this is true, why didn't anyone tell the Galactic Council? Because they'd be afraid of humans, Elias said. And we've had enough fear between species. Mara lowered her voice. Do you think the visitors will come back? Elias looked at the window, staring into the night sky filled with stars. I hope not, he said. But the blade appearing again, that means something. A sudden knock echoed through the hallway. Loud. Firm. Mara stiffened. Who? Elias held up his hand, listening. He recognized the pattern of the knock. It wasn't from the research staff. It wasn't from the museum. It was from someone who knew exactly what the blade meant. Elias Ward. A voice called through the door. You must come with us. Mara whispered. Who are they? Elias stood slowly. People from the part of human history no one talks about. He opened the door. Several humans stood there, wearing dark uniforms that no one in the modern era should have recognized. Their eyes were sharp, their expressions serious. The leader nodded at Elias. It's time, she said. Elias exhaled slowly. I knew this day would come. Mara watched in shock as he followed them out, realizing that she had just heard only the beginning of a story far older and far more dangerous than anything she had ever learned. The ground on Earth had been dug many times by many people, but no one ever looked deep enough. At least, that was what the humans always said. Most other species believed humans only had a few thousand years of history. They thought Earth was simple, young, and harmless. But after the Blade incident at the Galactic Museum, everything changed. Every species wanted answers, and every eye turned toward the small blue planet that suddenly held too many secrets. The expedition began quietly. A group of alien researchers came to Earth with special approval, and Thalen was assigned as their guide. He did not look excited, but inside he felt something heavy, something he had carried for a long time. The blade had awakened questions he hoped would stay buried. The alien team chose a valley that humans called Silent Gorge. Thalen told him it was a peaceful place, but that was only half the truth. He knew what slept beneath the soil there. They set up scanners, dug into the ground, and searched for signs of ancient life. At first, they found nothing but old rocks and simple metal pieces. But the deeper they went, the stranger the readings became. The scanners showed energy patterns that did not match any known technology. The soil held traces of heat strong enough to melt metal, yet there were no signs of natural disaster. The aliens whispered among themselves. Some were nervous, some were excited, a few were scared. One evening, as the team worked near a cliff wall, one researcher, a thin creature with silver eyes, called the others with a shaky voice. The machines detected a large object underground, longer than a ship, harder than any known metal, and resting there for thousands of years. They started removing soil carefully, layer by layer. The more they uncovered, the more their hands trembled. What they found was not a structure. It was not a machine either. It was a weapon, or maybe a bone. It was hard to tell. The object was dark, heavy, and carved with lines that seemed too perfect for any known tool. It curved slightly like a claw or a horn, but its surface glowed faintly, as if something still lived inside it. The aliens stepped back, unable to decide if they should continue. Thalen stepped forward instead. He touched the object with one hand, and the ground around them vibrated softly. The alien researchers panicked and reached for their emergency tools, but Thalen just stood still. His eyes were calm, as if he had expected this moment. When the vibration stopped, he finally spoke. His voice was quiet. "This," he said, "is why we never told anyone the full history of Earth." No one understood. They waited for him to explain. Thalen told them a story they could hardly believe, a story at a time so old that even Earth had almost forgotten it. Before humans wrote books, built cities, or learned to farm, the planet had been different. Humans had lived beside something else. Creatures not made of flesh alone, but of metal, fire, and stone. Partners, guardians, and sometimes rivals. Some called them titans. Others called them beasts. They were ancient beings who shaped the land and slept beneath it. And the blade in the museum? It had come from that time. It was a tool used to train with those creatures. Humans had once survived by working with them, fighting beside them, and learning from them. But the world changed. The titans fell asleep, and humans lost knowledge. Only a few families kept fragments of the old memories. Thalen's family was one of them. The aliens could not speak. Their minds struggled to understand a history older than their own planets. As they dug farther around the giant object, they found more pieces. Broken armor plates the size of trees, metal scales fused with stone, and a chamber that looked like a heart made of crystal. Each discovery made the team more uneasy. None of this matched anything in the known galaxy. When night came, they lit lamps around the dig site. The air felt heavier, as if something watched them. Some aliens wanted to return to their ship. Others insisted on staying. Curiosity beat fear, as it often did. Thalen sat alone near the giant object, staring at it in silence. The aliens wondered what he was thinking, but no one dared ask. He looked like someone meeting an old friend or an old enemy. In the middle of the night, the ground shook again. Dust rose from the pit. A soft humming sound came from the buried chamber. The aliens ran backward, shouting in panic. But Thalen stood up calmly. He walked to the edge of the pit and looked down. The humming grew louder, and a faint red glow pulsed under the soil, like a heartbeat returning after thousands of years. Then it stopped completely. The valley returned to silence. One alien whispered, "Is something alive down there?" Thalen did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and filled with something the others could not name. "Not alive," he said. "Not yet." The aliens stared at him, terrified. Thalen looked at the stars, then at the dark soil. "We should not have dug this far," he whispered. But the truth was out now, and the ground beneath Earth was no longer sleeping. The blade in the Galactic Museum had always been silent. It sat behind a clear shield, cold and mysterious, refusing to share anything about its origin. But after the discoveries on Earth, after the buried Titan bones, the strange armor, and the crystal heart, everyone wondered if the blade was more than a forgotten tool. The aliens who once studied it now watched it with fear. Some wanted to lock it deeper. Some wanted to send it into a star. But the museum had already allowed one person to approach it again, Thalen. He returned to the room where everything had started. The lights were dim, and only a few guards waited nearby. They watched Thalen carefully, unsure if he was dangerous or simply strange. The blade rested on its stand, shining faintly as if glad to see him. Thalen took a slow breath and stepped closer. The moment he touched the glass shield, the blade reacted. A soft vibration passed through the air. The guards stiffened. One of them reached for the alarm, but Thalen raised a hand and shook his head. His eyes stayed on the blade. "It's waking up," he whispered. The guards exchanged looks, unsure what to do. The glass panel slid open by itself, triggered by something no machine detected. Thalen reached out and wrapped his fingers around the blade's hilt. It felt warm, warmer than any ancient object should feel. Then the humming began. It started as a faint sound, like distant wind blowing through a cave. But soon it grew louder, filling the entire chamber. The guards took a step back. The lights flickered. The air shimmered. Thalen felt something in his mind, like a memory being gently pushed forward. It wasn't his own memory. It was a blade's. Images flashed behind his eyes. Not pictures, but impressions. Storms of energy. The shapes of giant creatures moving through old earth forests. Humans standing beside them, holding blades that glowed like stars. Voices chanting, training, teaching. The blade spoke without words. It remembered everything. Thalen felt a sharp pulse, and then the images changed. He saw the titans falling, sinking into the ground. He saw ancient humans sealing places with strange symbols. He saw one last wave of energy rising from Earth's core, carrying instructions, commands, warnings, and linking itself to every training blade forged at that time. The blade in his hand was not just a tool. It was a transmitter. It held a signal. And that signal was still active. When the vision faded, Thalen opened his eyes. The guard stared at him with fear and confusion. He looked calm, but inside his heartbeat felt like thunder. One guard asked, What did it do to you? Thalen shook his head. It didn't harm me. It showed me the truth. He placed the blade back on its stand. The humming stopped. The light steadied. But the room now felt different, as if it had heard a secret it was not meant to know. Thalen turned to the guards. Call the council, he said. This is bigger than the dig site. The council gathered within hours. Leaders from many species filled the museum chamber, whispering to one another nervously. Thalen stood alone in the center, the blade behind him like a silent witness. He explained what he saw, the ancient bond between humans and the Titans, the fall of the old world, and the signal hidden inside the blade. The signal, he told them, was a kind of code, a message left for future humans, or perhaps a key to waking what slept beneath Earth. One council member, a tall creature with glowing blue eyes, asked, Why now? Why is it activating after so long? Thalen answered slowly, Because we disturbed the ground. We uncovered the heart chamber. The Titan beneath the soil has felt the air again, and now the blade is responding. A thick silence followed his words. Another council member asked, Is this dangerous? Thalen did not lie. Yes. If the Titan wakes without control, without guidance, it could destroy everything around it. The room erupted in panic. Some shouted that Earth must be quarantined. Others argued it should be evacuated. A few demanded the blade be destroyed before anything worse happened. The blade, as if understanding their fear, suddenly glowed. A pulse of light shot up the ceiling. The council members froze in terror. Thalen ran to it, placing his hand on the hilt. The light softened. It's not attacking, he said. It's calling. The council stared at him. Calling what? Someone whispered. Thalen swallowed. Calling the one who can command the Titans. They looked at him with disbelief. One leader asked, Who is that? Some forgotten bloodline? A hidden warrior? Thalen shook his head slowly. No, he said. It's calling all of humanity. The chamber fell silent once more. Not with fear this time, but with realization. The Titans were never weapons. They were partners. They woke for humans. They listened only to humans. And now, as the ancient energy moved again, the blade scattered across Earth might be starting to hum too. Thalen felt a final message from the blade, soft as a whisper. Prepare them. He closed his eyes and nodded. The world thought humans were one of the younger species, unadvanced, simple, but the blade had revealed something else, something older, something waiting. And now, the signal inside it was no longer quiet. The signal from the blade spread quietly across Earth. No one could see it with their eyes, and no sensor could measure it, but every human felt something unusual in the air. It was not fear. It was not danger. It was something like an echo calling out to them, asking them to remember something they had never learned. Thalen stood at the old excavation site once again. The Titan heart chamber was still open, glowing faintly with golden light. Scientists and guards kept their distance. They remembered how the blade hummed, how the ground seemed to breathe, and how Thalen spoke of a legacy older than stars. Now everyone waited for something to happen. Thalen looked around. Humans from many places had arrived. Engineers, teachers, workers, pilots, even children. They were not trained warriors. They were simply people who felt drawn here, as if the ground itself whispered to them. One scientist asked Thalen, Are you sure this is safe? They don't even know why they came. Thalen nodded. That's the point. They don't need to know. The Titans do. The glow from the chamber grew brighter. The golden heart pulsed once, then twice. The air warmed. Other species stepped back in fear, but the humans stayed. Some felt nervous, others excited, but none ran away. A deep sound rose from beneath the soil, slow, heavy, and old. The ground shook. Dust fell from the cliff walls. The golden heart brightened until it hurt to look at. Then a shape moved. The first Titan lifted its head. Its scales shimmered like ancient metal. Its horns curved like carved stone. Its eyes opened slowly, glowing with a soft, gentle warmth, not anger. It looked enormous, powerful, and dangerous, yet the humans watching did not feel afraid. They felt calm. The aliens watching were frozen. One whispered, "How can they stand so close?" The Titan looked around until its glowing eyes found the humans gathered at the edge of the chamber. It stared at them for a long moment, as if searching for something in their faces. A small girl stepped forward. She had not spoken since she arrived. She simply walked down the slope with steady steps, ignoring the cries from guard behind her. Her small hand reached toward the Titan. The air filled with golden light. The Titan lowered its massive head and touched its nose to her hand. No one breathed. Thalen closed his eyes in relief. "It remembers," he whispered. The child smiled softly, and the Titan rumbled with a sound like distant thunder. Another shape stirred underground. Then another. More Titans woke, one by one, rising from the earth as if waking from a peaceful sleep. The ground opened in glowing lines, not cracking but unfolding like a door. Inside the chamber, ancient symbols lit up beneath the dust. Platforms rose from the floor, and on those platforms lay more blades. Over a dozen of them, each one shaped like the one in the museum. Humans gasped as the blades began to hum softly, reacting to the presence of the waking Titans. Thalen stepped forward cautiously. The largest Titan moved its head slightly, as if granting permission. Thalen picked up one of the blades. It felt warm and alive, vibrating with quiet power. When he lifted it, the Titans all raised their heads at once, their eyes glowing brighter. The council members watching from a safe distance could barely speak. One of them finally whispered, "Is this their inheritance?" Thalen nodded. "This is a legacy left for humanity." The Titans were not beasts. They were guardians, partners, and they are waking because humans are ready again. Some humans stepped forward, curious. When they touched the blades, golden light wrapped around their hands. The blades did not hurt them. Instead, they hummed gently, like they were greeting an old friend. The Titans responded with soft, low growls, growls of recognition. The aliens stared in disbelief. For generations they had thought humans were the weakest species. Quiet, simple, with no ancient power or long history. But now they watched a child calm a Titan with one touch. They watched ordinary humans lift ancient blades that shone with energy. They watched creatures older than empires bow their heads toward humanity. A leader from another species stepped toward Thalen shakily. "What happens now?" he asked. Thalen looked at the waking Titans, at the glowing blades, at the humans gathering with steady confidence. "We learn," he said. "We understand what our ancestors left for us, and we protect the galaxy the way they once did." The largest Titan made a deep sound, something like approval. Humans with blades climbed onto the platforms. Titans lowered their massive bodies, offering their backs without fear. The humans climbed onto them. It looked strange, impossible, beautiful. The child who touched the first Titan settled between two shining horns. The Titan lifted its wings. Dust swirled around them. No one moved. Then the Titan jumped. It spread its wings and flew into the sky, carrying the child gently. Light followed it, leaving a golden trail across clouds. The other Titans soon joined, rising into the air with their chosen humans, forming a great circle in the sky, glowing like a memory reborn. Thalen watched them and whispered. The legacy waited. Now humanity answers. And above them all, the Titans flew like living constellations, guardians finally awakened by the people they had been waiting for. ChatGPT can Mac.